I'm really looking forward to this session. I've spoken to Emma a few times, and it was Chris Knight from Inner Media who said to me, she's your woman. So she's going to give us a honest, step-by-step what happened at her virtual open day. And I'm hoping that for those of you who've ran virtual open days or have got some more planned in the pipeline, you'll be able to benefit from Emma's experience, which wasn't all positive. I think I'm right in saying, Emma, would that be fair?
It didn't quite go according to plan, but never mind, we've learned from that.
Brilliant. So I will hand over to you, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alicia, before you go, can you confirm that you could see my screen?
Sorry, yes, I can. It's all looking perfect.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I have to admit, this is my first time of doing something like this, and I am by no means an expert, but I hope I can give you an insight into things that you could perhaps do, develop and avoid at your school. So as a little bit of a background, I have many different roles in my school. I'm the timetabler, I'm the student team, I do student tracking and monitoring and the intervention. I'm responsible for the parents' evenings and reporting. I line manage whole school departments. I'm the academic registrar, so I make the decisions as to who gets offered at the school. I organise any recruitment and retention events for the school. I'm the link between the academic and the admissions department, and I'm also the UKVI authorising officer, to name a few. To give you some background on St Mary's, so you could understand where we're coming from with this, St Mary's is a Catholic all-girls school with a pre-prep, junior, senior and sixth form, totalling approximately 650 students. We have 2 boarding houses where we can have a maximum of 146 boarders. We are in central Cambridge, surrounding the university colleges, botanical gardens, etc. So as we're central Cambridge, we are split over a number of buildings and a number of sites. One of our sites is our sports facility, which is a 10-minute drive away from school. So if you've ever been to Cambridge, you will know that there are approximately 20 different private schools, all within about a half-mile radius of each other, including the likes of the big hitters, the Perse, the Stephen Perse, the Lees and various language schools, and us. So competition is high and we constantly need to stand out for the right reason. I think somebody's trying to phone me, but they can just wait. So this is what I hope to cover with you in the next 25 minutes or so. So what works, what doesn't, the role of the academic staff, adjusting to the different age groups, and the many lessons learnt. So where to begin? Let's go back to last summer when we were in lockdown version 1. I just spent approximately 6 weeks dealing with the submissions of the school's centre assessed grades, the CAGs, for our year 11 and 13 students as part of my Director of Studies role. I'd pressed that big red submit button. This meant that I could then switch to start thinking about the open days for the autumn term for the school. I'd organised an online open morning for our junior school in May via Zoom, but it was poorly done in retrospect. We would normally have had an in-person event, but of course this was not possible due to lockdown. So with minimal planning, the online open event took place. It was only 30 minutes long, thankfully, but it had just a presentation with the head of juniors with a PowerPoint and videos running alongside. It worked in so much as the families got the information regarding the school and seemed happy with it, but I was not. Saying that, we learnt a lot about our capabilities for running future events from this event. The good point, the one good point, is that the head of juniors was great at presenting online. Presenting online, as we all know, is very different to presenting in person. So it cannot be assumed that the staff members who would do well in person can present online when they cannot read the audience's body language and adapt accordingly. The 5 practice sessions ahead of the event were definitely needed, otherwise it would have been much worse. The bad points. We were not slick enough by any way with the IT. Switching between sharing your screen for PowerPoints to videos, back again to the presenter, we knew in the future that we would need professional help with this. We would also need one dedicated person answering the questions coming through on the chat function. We didn't anticipate that. Don't know why we didn't think of that, but never mind. We would need more people presenting as it was only the head of juniors, so we needed some variety. So on that big Friday night, when the big red submit button had been pressed, I turned to this, my gin, and I got the inspiration flowing. So as a mathematician, I started working with visuals, as I work much better with that than anything else. I decided to think about the experience of a prospective family on an in-person event, on the live event, and how we could recreate this online, but at the same time make it attractive for our international families who would now be able to hear and see what we were all about. For example, I wanted them to experience the head speech. I wanted them to visit the departments that were important to their daughters, not hearing about all of them potentially. Seeing and hearing all about the extracurricular activities that are on offer, boarding, specialist departments of SEN and EAL, and so on and so forth. And this is what I came up with, a selection of areas which would be either live, pre-recorded, or a live activity. So the table on the left are the different areas that I wanted to include in the open morning. So you could see the yellow is the people that I wanted to speak live. The green are the pre-recorded rooms and what they would be pre-recorded with, and then the activities and so on. I wanted 6 live rooms, which is the table on the right-hand side at the top. So 6 live rooms happening simultaneously. So at 9:30 to 10 o'clock, somebody could go in and listen to CAY, that's the initials for our headmistress, for half an hour. Then they could choose at 10 o'clock to go in to hear about admissions, or they could choose to go and have a live lecture on SEN or maths or languages or sixth form. So they could choose what they wanted to hear the information about and when. And if they weren't interested in anything in that session, then they could dip into the pre-recorded rooms to actually hear something that they wanted to hear about, or they could go into an activity room. How I saw it in my head was that they effectively walk into a virtual school and have a choice with what they want to find out, so that each family's experience was different and unique to them. This is the plan that I had for the senior school, but there was a similar one that I drew up for the junior school and the sixth form. Let's just say that the gin really, really did help to get my creative juices flowing, so to speak. Perhaps a little bit too much, you're thinking. Once I had the outline of the event, I took the idea to the head of marketing and the admissions team, which I work with, for their views. Their combined view was that I'd gone completely mad and it was not going to work. But I can be very persuasive when I need to be. So over the coming months and weeks and loads of seconds, the ideas developed and plans started to form. So next we needed to inform the staff of the dates, and it meant that we were going to be running double the amount of open days, as we wanted to run the normal in-person open days as well as the online open days. So we needed the staff on side. We informed them at the end of the summer term when I knew they'd written their reports, finished their exam marking, etc. I think it's really important that somebody in the admissions team has the overview of what the academic staff are doing, so they know when is the best time to give them any new information. Over the summer, lots of meetings were held between myself and the head of marketing to iron out all of the details. And of course, my original gin field plan changed and developed into something really interesting. I attended many online events as to how schools could deliver their online event, but I knew that we needed help with the IT part. So we started working with a company called Inner Media, and specifically a contact called Chris Knight, who is brilliant, who gave countless hours of help and pieces of advice to ensure that we got everything that we wanted and everything would work well for us in the future. From the start of September, with the COVID government wind constantly changing direction, we made the decision to not hold the in-person open events in school and go wholly with the online event. So no pressure there then. The junior school online open event was first. The final outline of the event is what you can see. The first hour was a series of live talks from a variety of different speakers. And this was in a webinar function, in a webinar format. So, and we interspersed this with PowerPoints, videos, and polls. as we wanted it to be as interactive as possible for the audience and their daughters. I chaired the webinar and introduced all of the speakers. Each presenter or speaker handed back to me at the end of their section. We invited questions through the chat function from the families throughout each of the speeches. So at the end of each speech, I asked the presenter the submitted questions so all families could hear the answers. It also meant that we did not ask any awkward questions and we left them out, and we privately messaged the person who'd asked the awkward questions separately. After this, the next half an hour was where the families could choose what they wanted to hear about 2 areas that were important to them. For the junior school, we had 6 different areas from which they could choose: reception, supporting individual needs, etc. At the end of the main webinar, I explained that they would be redirected to a page on our website. They could choose the area which they wanted to hear about, press the appropriate button, and it would take them into a Zoom meeting, so different to a webinar, which is more personal. In the Zoom meeting was a chairperson welcoming them into the meeting and then introducing the presenter. The presenter did their speech and then took questions at the end. After 12 minutes, the chairperson closed the meeting and the families were redirected back to our webpage again. The meetings on the second rotation were the same as the first. At the end of the second rotation of meetings, the families were redirected again back to the webpage for them to join the closing webinar for the last 15 minutes of the morning. At the end of the whole morning, we were completely knackered, as you can imagine, but completely elated. The vision had worked. We had families instantly emailing admissions saying what a fantastic open morning it was and registering their daughters. The reason for this success was the hours of prep that every person involved had put into writing their speeches, practicing their part, etc. The whole junior school staff were apprehensive at first at speaking live, but really enjoyed it and felt proud of what they'd been part of and its success. In all of the planning and the run up to the event, we had a team in to professionally video all of the speeches. All of the speeches were then put on the website afterwards, so families that were not able to attend the event or future families could still hear all of the information that was given in the online event. But the families that did attend could also hear what was said in the other rooms that they didn't attend. So while all the final plans for the junior school open morning were taking place, we were also planning a very similar version for the senior school, which was next in the early October. It was planned to be the same structure as the junior school. Main webinar, where we wanted the families to hear the same information. Then they could choose 3 different meetings to go into, and then the final webinar at the end. I sent out all of the information, which you can see here, to the heads of department who would be speaking live in the event, spoon feeding them everything they could possibly want to know about the event and their role, our expectations of them, literally minute by minute. We would obviously take care of all of the resources and assets as well. All they were responsible for was writing their 2-minute speech. What I had not taken into account was the staff common room body, who promptly said, "Are you kidding?" Within 24 hours of the information being sent to the heads of department, the headmistress had received 5 emails complaining that it was far too much for them to do a 2-minute speech live. Completely bonkers when you think that they normally spend 3 hours talking live to families at an in-person event. The head of marketing and I got called to the head's office where we were told that we would have to redesign the entire event so it did not include live speeches for the heads of departments. Now, I'm not known for holding back, and the head knew this, so I told her exactly what I thought of the heads of departments and asked for specific names of those who'd refused to do it. You need to remember that I managed the majority of the heads of departments, and I was interested in knowing who were the ones who complained. As we didn't have time at this stage, as things had been advertised to parents in the format that we had originally designed, to completely change tack, as it was only 3 weeks to the event, we compromised that those who had complained would pre-record their speech and for them that to go onto the website later, but they would not take part in the live event. All of the heads of departments that complained were managed by the deputy head, but their departments were major enough to cause us issues. They were biology, computing, chemistry, maths, etc. And when you're selling STEM as a major aspect of the school, this causes problems. So more gin was had over another late night Zoom meeting with head of marketing, where we had to quickly redesign the open morning. As the heads of departments were major departments, we felt we could not leave them out while other departments were speaking live. We felt it would look like that we were actually trying to hide something. So we decided to pre-record all of the department speeches and knock out the choice element, where it was choose your own adventure, where the families would choose which department meeting rooms they had what they want to enter and hear from live. The only departments that would talk live were the core subjects. So the morning now looked like this. The good point is that the morning became shorter. The bad point is that it was very, very presentation heavy, with none of the breakout personalized sessions that we wanted. But hey ho, we tried to fit in as much as possible. The choose your own adventure route and element of it was replaced by continue your armchair adventure. So they were directed onto our website at the end of the main webinar. Interestingly, the closing Q&A session was really good. We had some questions in reserve in case we needed them, but the parents asked really good questions that I could direct towards the appropriate speaker to answer live. We could have spent longer on this element in hindsight, but we were trying to keep to the time advertised. Again, like for the junior school, all of the speeches were pre-recorded and placed on the website afterwards. This was especially useful when the head girl became ill and was not able to come in and do her speech live as planned. One thing to note, and a really good thing about online open events, our students are much more comfortable in the online world than we are. So we need to use them more often. So instead of missing her out, on the webinar, we explained that she was ill, but that we had pre-recorded her speech, and here it was, and we played her video. Hence, this showed that we'd actually thought of all eventualities, which went down well. I say that, but during one of the handover sessions to one of the presenters, a picture behind me decided that moment to fall off the wall and make a big crash. So as we were recording it, we actually cut that clip out and have sent it to Harry Hill, and we hope to actually get £250 shortly when it's shown on TV. So after having an open day that was a complete success and ran as planned, the junior school, and one open morning that was changed, but ended up being good in the end, but very stressful in the run-up, the senior school, we decided to go completely back to the drawing board for the sixth form open morning. Knowing that the heads of department did not want to speak live to lots of families at the same time, but also knowing that we only get a handful of new students into our sixth form every year, and they all want to hear about different subjects, we decided to do things on a much more personalised format. So we came up with this, individual appointments. All families would start off by meeting the head of sixth form individually. For 10 minutes, and then they would meet the heads of departments live of the subjects that they wanted to potentially study at A-level. And then they would get extra information from a variety of staff regarding academic life, pastoral support, and extracurricular. This is an example of the schedule that I drew up that was sent to an individual family concerned, outlining the event so they could see who they were talking to and when. We used Zoom. The same Zoom meeting was used by all of the teachers speaking with the family, i.e. the family stayed in the meeting and the teachers came and went. How this worked was that the previous teacher made the new teacher host before they departed. The admissions team were always the last meeting with the family, and hence they ended the meeting for everyone. The school, my school, has 20 Zoom accounts, so we could have up to 20 families being met by teachers at any one time. There was a master spreadsheet that I created for all of the staff so they could see their individual appointments and have the individual Zoom links to enable them to join the correct meeting at the correct time. Joys of being timetable, you see. It did require everyone to have their emails open on the open day. So if a family were a no-show, etc., everyone had an email sent through to them to say that. It did mean it was run to a tight schedule and no one could overrun, as most staff were back-to-back appointments with families. The feedback was great, but some families wanted longer with one subject than another, depending on their priority. But you can't please everyone. Admissions obviously followed up with all families, so could arrange another appointment if needed. So 3 different open days in 3 months. A challenge? Absolutely. Do we now feel we know a lot more about running open events? Absolutely. Have we got loads of online resources for the website that we did not have before? Completely. We are now planning a completely new international open day aimed at families who are specifically looking for boarding. The format, a mixture of all of the 3 previous events, as it turns out. We will wait and see how it happens. So, in conclusion, going back to what I should have covered with you, hopefully in the last 20 odd minutes, what worked, what doesn't, and why? So, knowing your staff well and their limits, but also the families that you're working with and knowing what they want to find out is key, as we know. The head of our junior school has only 20 teaching staff who he sees every day and has a really good relationship with. He sold our vision of the open day to them. Whereas the head of the senior school has over 100 teaching staff and does not see them every day, does not have and has a much more hands-off approach, and so did not lead from the front on this, which in hindsight is what we needed to make the senior school original version work. Having an external agency involved for the filming and for the IT on the day, the practice session and everything concerned was an absolute godsend. Their experience and advice was invaluable throughout. The role of the academic staff, well, we need them. They're not going anywhere. Once admissions have done their job to recruit new students, it is the academics' role to retain the students and the families, so the recruitment of students is not made harder due to the increased number of families leaving. Admissions and marketing need the academic staff, but the academic staff also need admissions and marketing. It is getting the academic staff to see that the school is a business, first and foremost, and an educational establishment, second. They are sales personnel, just like the admissions team are. Part of the role of a teacher in any independent school is to sell the school. That means at open events, meeting families on tour with a big smile on their face as they walk into your classroom, going that extra mile for a new online open event is expected and completely essential. All new teachers, support staff, everyone in the school should have, as part of their induction process to the school, a session with the head of admissions and marketing, so they get the information up front and firsthand as to their individual role in the admissions process. If you have a tour of the school video, they should watch them as part of the induction process so they get to know your school better. Even better is if you can get something written into their contract. For example, a different paragraph for different roles as to what the school expects from them in helping assist with the retention and recruitment of students. Every 2 years, perhaps have a whole school inset session at the start of the academic year when all of the staff are fresh and enthusiastic about customer service, the client journey, so to speak. Giving them something to relate to, e.g., when you buy a new car, the service you expect when you spend £15,000 is, and of course, we are asking them to buy a new car every single year. But having somebody who's the bridge between admissions and marketing and the academic side is important, especially when you have heads of departments who get called on all the time to complete marking, meet parents, interview students, etc. Many a crisis has been averted in my school because I knew information that the admissions and marketing team did not know, as I line manage key departments and hence could make and advertise a different route from the normal one when a problem arose. So adjusting for different age groups, what works well for one part of the school does not necessarily work well for the other. Being open to adjust at the last minute, stressful as it was key. Next year, I will not bring out the same events that worked this academic year. I will incorporate changes to make it run even more smoothly and bring in things that worked well in other events that we've subsequently run and which I can adapt to these events. Online events are the way forward, a much bigger audience for us to tap into. So we need to stand out from all of the other local schools to make our events the best that they can be. Mistakes made and lessons learned. Ooh, a few. So number one, gin helps. Number two, communication is key. I had planned the events, I knew them inside out, but perhaps forgot and didn't understand that not everyone knew things as well as me, and perhaps did not have as much investment in the event as me, and hence it was not high on their priority list compared to where it was on mine. Number three, as much as you think you are working with really intelligent people, they are scared of change. There was also a lot of outside pressures taking place at the time with news, COVID, etc. And this affected some people's clarity of thought as to what they could normally do before compared to what they could do now. Number four, use students a lot more than what we've done ever online before, because they are the ones who feel comfortable in the virtual world compared to the adults. So this actually opens up a lot more students for us, which is fantastic. Number five, be prepared for anything. There were so many near misses where I'd asked somebody to do something, but they hadn't. So thank you so much for listening. Perhaps there's some of you who's still awake out there and I've not put you to sleep. Please do feel free to contact me. My details are on the screen. Good luck with your own events, and I would love to hear your ideas of what has worked for you. But thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was brilliant. I love the detail. We can see that you're a mathematician, that's for certain. But we're getting lots of positive comments. One question that has come in is, what starter poll questions did you use?
So we try to always do the starter poll questions to just engage with the girls more than anything. So they were age appropriate. So they weren't for the parents. The first one was always directed to the students to find out what they wanted to find out about the school. And then the second one was for the parents as to what they wanted to find out. And we gave them a list of options. And at the end, at the last poll that we did was always to the parents to say, have you found out what you wanted to find out? So to give you an idea, on one of the open mornings that we did, it was very much they wanted to find out about how we teach. And then the follow up at the end was, did you find out what you wanted to find out? And luckily, the poll was yes, we got 100% yes. So each of their individual answers had been open throughout the open day, which was brilliant. You know, we were a success in that manner.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Lots of people saying they can see the same challenges. And I think it's interesting, we've heard the same thing